This is the Glenn Beck program. We want to welcome Governor Ron DeSantis, presidential candidate, of course, the governor from Florida. Governor, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Glenn?
I am great. Good to talk to you. One of the things that I think I don't understand, because everybody likes you. I mean, you're a great governor. Everybody really likes you. And you have to close the deal here on why you are better than Donald Trump. What is the disconnect, or can you connect that with people? Why are you better than Donald Trump?
Well, I think we are in the process of doing that in these early states. I mean, I think a few things. One, I'm more likely to actually get elected, which you see with me winning Florida by 20 points. He was not able to do that. Number two, I can serve 2 terms. He'd be a lame duck on day one. Number three, he's not going to be able to recruit really strong personnel to fill the administration. I'd have hundreds of people that would be willing to come to Washington to help turn the screws on the D.C. swamp and to get this bureaucracy in line. 4, I'll be focused on your issues. I don't have issues that are going to distract me. My sole focus will be on this country, reversing America's decline. 5, I'm the only one running, Donald Trump or others. Everything I promised my voters I would do, I delivered on 100% of the promises. Donald Trump, of course, can't say that. Didn't build the wall with Mexico paying for it, didn't drain the swamp, didn't eliminate the debt. So we will go in there, and I've a bold agenda. We put out a lot of great stuff, but I have a plan to actually accomplish all of this stuff when I take office. And I think it's really important because this is not about the show. This is not about entertainment. The future of our country is going to be determined about whether we can produce the type of results that we need to get us on a fundamentally better path going forward. And so for all those reasons and others, I'm the choice. You just think, when I tell people, Glenn, is I can make all these promises, and I do have a record of delivering, but I think forward 8 years, January of 2033, if I'm ready, if I'm handing off the baton to hopefully a worthy successor, what am I going to be able to tell you and the American people that we've actually accomplished? And we're going to be able to say we've restored the American dream, we've whipped inflation, interest rates, we have energy, security, independence, we've reversed Bidenomics. We'll be able to say our sovereignty's been restored, no more Mexican drug cartels running the show, no more fentanyl poisoning tens of thousands of Americans every year. We're going to say that we've fended off the threat from the Chinese Communist Party. In the 21st century, America is still the dominant power in the world. We'll be able to say that our schools are about educating kids, not indoctrinating kids, including our universities, because we will have done things through accreditation to change the tide there. We'll be able to say whether you live in a red state or a blue city, criminals are going to be held accountable for their crimes again. We're not going to let the inmates run the asylum, and the rule of law will be restored. And then finally, but not least, we will have restored the Constitution to the central role in American life. No more unaccountable bureaucracy imposing its will on us, weaponizing against us. It's going to be a limited government that is going to be conducting itself in accordance with the founders' vision. And if we can say all that, then we'll be able to say we've restored what President Reagan called a shining city on a hill.
Okay, I think that's that's pretty comprehensive. Very good. You brought up something at the very beginning where you said he's going to have a hard time finding people for position. If I'm not mistaken, there's like 40,000 appointments to be made, and you have to be way ahead of that in the first place. And I think you are already looking, initially just taking a look at who would serve and where you would put people and who needs to be where. But the press has done so much damage to Donald Trump that, they're putting his lawyers, on trial and going to jail. Nobody wants to represent him. And like you said, is he going to be able to get the people around him? How important is it, those 40,000?
Yes. So who's going to be like the FBI director? I've said we're going to have a new one on day one. Donald Trump said the jury's still out on Christopher Wray. I don't think the jury's still out. I think we need a new one. You'll have that. You'll have an attorney general that's going to spit nails and that's going to have a spine of steel. And all those are important. But as you know, Glenn, we have a fourth branch of government that has developed over many decades. Right. And they don't even care about the elections, and they're going to do what they want. The only way you can successfully corral that is if you have people 2, 3, 4, 5 rungs down who you're appointing who are going to be able to turn the screws on there. And I will be exerting the Article 2 authority necessary to do it in ways other presidents have. We're going to take the 40,000, 50,000 policy role bureaucrats. We're going to take them out of civil service entirely, put them as Schedule F. They can be terminated at will. We're going to be doing a lot of different things, but you have got to have that. And you can't just recycle people from within the D.C. swamp. And I'm going to inspire people, and I actually say this on the campaign trail. I want people from Texas and Utah and Wisconsin and all these places. Pick up your family. 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever you can do, you're on a mission to return this government to its rightful owners, we the people. And you got to inspire people up and down the rung of that, and we will do that. And yes, there are very good people involved right now in collecting tens of thousands of resumes from around the country. What I'll do is at the end of the spring, we'll just do the transition starting then, and that's going to be a huge part of it. So you're going to have 3 things, really. You're going to have the personnel that need to be ready to go. Number 2, you're going to have all the whatever executive actions you're going to take. A lot of that will be just be repealing Biden's stuff. And then 3, the legislation, working with the members of Congress so that's ready to go. Some of that will just be normal things we all want to see, but some of it you've got to fit in this Senate budget reconciliation vehicle. That's how Biden was able to do all his stuff. He had 50 senators and he did all this stuff. When are Republicans ever out kicking their coverage? I mean, we underperform in Washington. So we're going to have a mindset on that. And I think Biden abused reconciliation, but we're going to jam a lot of stuff in budget reconciliation, which is going to be very good for the country. And I think, as a student of history, I think you'd agree with this. You can serve 8 years, but you really only have limited windows to really strike and get a lot of big things done with Congress. You don't have a full 8 years. There's an ebb and flow. You come in as a newly inaugurated president, and you got wind at your back, and you got 100 days, 150 days. Then, they go on August recess. Then maybe you have, a couple spurts over the first 2 years. Then they have the midterm election. Then Congress can change maybe that. Then maybe you get a little shot with the new Congress. Then it's the re-election. Then you get reelected. It's kind of a crescendo. You get 6-9 months where you get to do your second term agenda. Then they start worrying about the midterm, and then you're a lame duck the last 2 years. Right. So in 8 years, you're talking about probably 12 to 18 months that you really have a chance to strike. And so you've just got to be ready on day one, and we will be. Okay,
let me change the subject. I know I wanted to talk to you about all of the wars that are going on and strategy to avoid it, but I want to take you to the border crossings. By the time you would be elected president, there'll be over 10 million people in this country that just came across our borders. We have no idea who there were. 250 or 240,000 came just last month. Again, there's more on the way in caravans. We know that these are people from some really dangerous countries like Iran who, are terrorist nations. Do you expect to see terrorism, and what should be done to thwart it? Are you worried about it?
Of course. I mean, I think the Israel attack, Hamas's attack on Israel, focused more and more Americans on, okay, wait a minute. Israel's got some of the strongest border security in the world, and yet this happened there. We have a border where anybody's coming across, and you're right, Iran, Russia, China, Middle Eastern countries, they're coming across. Our own government acknowledges people on their own terrorist watch list are coming across, and that's just who we know about. And we know there's a lot of people coming who we don't. So I said in the debate, the elites in D.C., they've left you and your family exposed to drugs going in your community and terrorism. And the media's like, oh, there's no terrorists coming across the border. Glenn, what are the odds you could have 8 million people with more and more every day, as you pointed out, and there not be a potential terrorist? Of course there are. This is a major vulnerability for our country. So I've said we got to send all these people back, and that's going to require a concerted effort. It's going to require something similar to what Eisenhower did in the 1950s. But we have just put ourselves in a terrible predicament with terrorism, but even with just criminal aliens who've come across the border. Our country's less safe and secure as a result of it. And if you never are willing to send people back, then you're going to continue having different waves of this all throughout the future.
I'm doing a show tonight on what is being said to the Russian people and to the Iranian people, and it is shocking, Governor. It is shocking. They are talking exactly the same language. End of times, Antichrist. You'll never guess who both Russia and Iran think is the Antichrist. The language is really disturbing, and the way it is being sold, I'm very concerned about it coming in through the back door and being sold to Americans going, they really have a point. Nikki Haley the other day said that she wanted verification of everybody who was on social media and open access to be able to see the algorithms. What is your thought on that?
So forcing disclosure of names and registration, that's what China has done. China did that recently. That is totally inappropriate for the United States of America. I mean, Glenn, we've lived through this age of cancel culture. You can lose your job if you're a conservative. You can have things done to you. There's a role for anonymous speech. The Federalist Papers were written anonymously by Madison J. and Hamilton. That's a long tradition in our country. But what it would do, I think, is open the door for a social credit system. She is somebody I think is in favor of things like a central bank digital currency. I oppose central bank digital currency. In fact, I've signed legislation in Florida prohibiting the use of CBDC in our state because I think the Fed may try to do it unilaterally. They do not have the authority to do that. Congress, if they did it, I don't think they would. I think that would trump our state law. But anyways, I've said as president on day one, CDBC dies. It's dead. We're not doing it in the United States of America. So this is something that is totally unacceptable. I just think it shows you don't know what time it is if you're trying to saying that we need your names on all this stuff. So I wasn't surprised she said it because I think that's just who she is. But it was totally out of bounds of what would be acceptable in the Republican Party.
Great to have you on, Governor. Thank you so much. RonDeSantis.com if you want to get involved in the campaign, find out more information. It's RonDeSantis.com. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Glenn. Take care.
You bet. Bye-bye.